After David's last email in 2009, I moved on. I never quite found a fit for me in my dating life, and I dated very prolifically. And I had gone through the dark night of soul. I had worked through those childhood issues and truly broken through to the other side. And sure, I was aware that something was amiss, but as far as David was concerned in my conscious life, it was a done deal. Now, sure, I thought about him from time to time, but I didn't long for him in the slightest. I looked on the past with mostly fondness, but detachment. And once I got into my celibacy journey, I found a peace and clarity with it that I was not expecting. At first, I decided to just be celibate, until I got my stuff together, but I liked it so much, I stayed with it. A lot of my friends who were in relationships, they weren't healthy ones. They were getting cheated on or having divorces or just toxicity in general. So I didn't feel like I was missing out on a whole lot. Not all my friends, but a lot of them. And as I was getting older, to be honest, the truth is suitors became fewer and further between. And I looked great for my age, not gonna lie, but I also had a realistic outlook. Not to mention, my childhood wounds, they were pretty severe and deep, and there was so much healing that had to be done before I could even consider looking for a partner again. So even though I knew I was in a great space, I still knew there was a lot of work to be done. And I was at peace with being single for the first time in my life, and that felt pretty great. I did not feel incomplete without a man. And while I faced a fair amount of loneliness during the pandemic, I was also deep in this journey of self-love and really keeping myself company. A couple times during the pandemic, I felt David's energy as if he wanted to reach out to me, but I always sent his energy back to him, like, go back, but I didn't think a whole lot of it. And I should mention around this time, I had a very interesting dream. I dreamt of two brightly colored snakes. One was baby blue and the other one was emerald green. Their heads were cut off and they were still moving. It was very, very vivid. And I did not link those two events at the time.
The Kundalini energy is represented by two snakes. It's important when you have these dreams about snakes to understand what the snake is doing, because that will help you understand where you are in the process.
My twin flame journey had not even been on my radar just yet. Dreaming about snakes was a little creepy. I was a little freaked out, and I told a friend about it. I had no idea what it meant. Now, as far as David's energy, again, it just came in little pieces, and I didn't think a whole lot about it. I figured he was probably thinking about me and was wondering if he should reach out, and I didn't really want him to at this point. And that was pretty much it, until one day he came in full force and he was not taking no for an answer. Now, as I mentioned in previous episodes, I started seeing 333 a lot. And this started in about March of 2023. I would say late March. I would just go outside and I'd see a parked or moving car with 333 on the license plate, or I'd see someone across the street with 333 on their shirt. It was popping up quite a bit, so I knew something was coming. About May 5th, 2023, I woke up one day and it was like a day like any other. I had my coffee, I got ready for a day of working at home, took a shower, all that good stuff, and suddenly there he was, David. He was in my room, not in the flesh, but his energy. It was there full force. Later on, I would find out that what I was experiencing was David visiting me in the 5D, but I didn't quite know what that had meant just yet. It was as if he was sitting in the room with me, and there was no way I could just tell him to leave. He was right there. I could feel his every thought, his every emotion, and I could feel that he missed me tremendously and had regrets. Instinctually, I knew David wanted to communicate with me. So, like I said, I couldn't just send his energy back. It was too full force and too present to do that. He wanted to talk, and I knew he was thinking of me, and he missed me so badly. I figured he must be thinking about me right now. So I decided to look him up on social media. I had not looked him up since 2008. When David got into a new relationship, I knew that looking him up would be torture. I did it once just to see a picture of him and his girlfriend at his CD release party, and that was not fun to look at. And so after that, I was really good about staying off his online profile. And to be honest, I was really proud of myself for not going down that rabbit hole, because, hey, I love a good cyber stalking. I mean, who doesn't, But at this point, it had been almost like 15 years, So I felt like, okay, it's time I could do it. I had also heard through my ex-drummer that David was no longer with that same girl that he met right after me. And I think that David made it a point to tell him that so it would get back to me. Now, normally, like I said, I would go on Facebook, maybe look at a few photos and call it a day. For some reason, I didn't do that. I didn't go to Facebook. I decided to look David up on YouTube. So we were both in rock bands back in the day. So I figured it'd be really fun to see if there was some old footage from his band, maybe, a concert I had gone to. But I couldn't have prepared myself for what I was about to find or how in-depth of a conversation I was going to listen to. A podcast. Yes, I saw a podcast with David's face in the thumbnail. Although he had obscured his face a little bit by holding a plastic blender in front of his face, so his eye was poking out. This was a podcast that was talking about David's life as a bartender in New Orleans. And there he was in the thumbnail, looking very much older than I remembered him, but every bit as sexy. So you could only just see that little eye peeking out. But here's the kicker. I looked at the timestamp of the podcast. It was 5333. Yes, 53 minutes and 33 seconds long. So there was my first 333. I figured maybe that's what all the 333 was leading up to. And it was just the beginning, but I was still pretty blown away by that. So I wasn't just going to look at a handful of photos and call it a day. Instead, I was about to listen to David speak for an hour about his current job. I had no idea that I would be getting a whole lot more than I bargained for. And I was merely an hour away from my second 333 confirmation that would tell me what this whole journey was about. And it was going to be one of many. I was not only going to get completely caught up on David's life, but I would be unlocking the first clue to my twin flame awakening.